Mary, I need your help with something. I keep hearing native speakers say would all the time, but I never know when to use it myself. Like, why do people say I would go instead of I will go? And when someone asks me a question with would, I freeze up. It's so confusing.
Alex, you're definitely not alone with this. Would is one of those words that English learners understand when they hear it, but they freeze up when trying to use it themselves in conversation. And I totally get why it's confusing, because would has several different uses, and they're all really common in everyday English.
Exactly. That's my problem. I hear it everywhere, but I don't know which meaning people are using.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to fix today. By the end of this conversation, you'll know exactly when and how to use would naturally, just like native speakers do. We're going to cover the 4 main ways we use would in English with lots of examples so you can really understand it.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Perfect. And to everyone listening, this is going to be really practical. We're not going to get into complicated grammar terminology. We're just going to have a natural conversation, and you'll learn by listening and practicing along with us. So grab a notebook if you want, or just listen while you're walking, cooking, or commuting. Let's get started. Okay, Alex, before we dive into the different uses, let me tell you why learning would is so important. Native speakers use this word dozens of times every single day. We use it for polite requests, for talking about past habits, for imagining situations, for expressing preferences. It's absolutely everywhere in conversational English.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that common.
Oh, yes. And here's the thing. When you don't use would in situations where native speakers expect it, you can accidentally sound too direct or even a bit rude without meaning to at all.
Oh no, I've probably been sounding rude this whole time and I didn't even know it.
Don't worry, Alex. That's exactly why we're doing this lesson today. Once you understand when to use would, your English will sound so much more natural and polite. You'll feel more confident in conversations, and people will respond to you better too.
That sounds great. I really want to sound more natural.
You will. And the good news is, once you understand the patterns, it's actually not that complicated. You just need to recognize the situations where would fits naturally. So let's start with probably the most important use of would, the one you'll use every single day. Alex, imagine you're at a coffee shop and you want to order something. You could walk up to the counter and say, "I want a coffee." How does that sound to you?
It sounds kind of demanding, maybe a little bit rude.
Exactly. You picked up on that. It's very direct. Now listen to this version. "I would like a coffee, please." Can you hear the difference?
Yes, it sounds much softer and more polite.
That's right. Would makes requests softer and more polite. This is probably the most common way English learners will use would in daily life. Let's practice. Pretend I'm a barista at a coffee shop. Order something from me using would.
Okay. I would like a cappuccino, please.
Perfect. That sounded so natural. Now, there are lots of ways to use would for polite requests. Let me give you some more examples. You can say, "Would you help me with this?" instead of "help me with this." Or, "Would you mind closing the window?" instead of "close the window."
Oh, I see. So I'm adding would to make it sound less like a command and more like a polite question.
Exactly. You're turning a direct statement into a polite request. Here are some really useful phrases with would that you can use all the time. Would you be able to? Would it be possible to? Would you mind if I? These are phrases native speakers use constantly.
Can you give me some real examples, like actual sentences I could use?
Of course. Let's say you're at work and you need your colleague to send you a file. Instead of saying, "Send me the file," you could say, "Would you be able to send me that file?" Or if you want to open a window in a meeting room, instead of just opening it, you could ask, "Would you mind if I open the window?"
Oh, that's so much more polite. Let me try. If I wanted someone to explain something again, I could say, "Would you mind explaining that again?"
Perfect. That's exactly right. You've got it. Let's practice a few more. How would you politely ask someone to speak more slowly?
Would you speak more slowly, please? No, wait, that doesn't sound quite right.
You're close. Try, would you mind speaking more slowly? Or would you be able to speak more slowly, please?
Ah, would you mind speaking more slowly? That sounds better.
Exactly. Now, let's do a few more quick practices. I'll give you a situation, and you make a polite request with would. Ready?
Ready.
You want someone to help you carry something heavy.
Would you help me carry this, please?
Great. You want to borrow someone's phone.
Would you mind if I borrowed your phone?
Excellent. You want someone to repeat what they said.
Would you mind repeating that?
Perfect, Alex. You're really getting this. Now, listeners at home, it's your turn to practice. Pause for a moment and say these out loud. Would you help me? Say it 3 times. Then try, I would like some water, please. Say that 3 times too. Practice out loud. It really helps.
Mary, I have a question. Can I use would when I'm talking to friends, or is it too formal?
Great question. You can definitely use it with friends. It doesn't sound overly formal. It just sounds polite and considerate. Even with close friends, saying, would you grab me a coffee, sounds nicer than grab me a coffee. But with friends, you can also use contractions to make it more casual, like would you becomes would ya, or even could ya.
Oh, that's good to know. So I don't have to worry about sounding too formal.
Not at all. Politeness is always appreciated, even in casual situations. Okay, let's move on to the second major use of would. Alex, tell me about something you did regularly when you were a child. Maybe something you did every day or every week.
Okay, I played soccer every weekend when I was younger.
That's great. Now listen to how a native speaker would say that same sentence. When I was a child, I would play soccer every weekend. Do you hear the difference?
Yes, you used would instead of just the past tense. But why? I mean, I played soccer is already past tense.
Excellent question. We use would to talk about past habits or repeated actions. It emphasizes that this was something you did regularly, not just once. It's similar to used to, but would sounds a bit more natural in conversation, especially when you're telling stories or reminiscing about the past.
Oh, so it's for things I did repeatedly in the past, not just one time.
Exactly. You wouldn't say, yesterday I would go to the store, because that's just one time. But you could say, every Saturday I would go to the store with my grandmother. That shows it was a regular habit.
I think I understand. Can you give me more examples?
Sure. Let's say you're talking about your childhood. When I was young, I would wake up early every morning. My father would read me stories before bed every night. We would visit my grandparents every summer. See how all of these are repeated actions in the past?
Yes, they're all things that happened many times, not just once.
Perfect. Now you try. Think about your childhood and tell me something you would do regularly. Use would in your sentence.
Okay. When I was 10 years old, I would ride my bicycle to school every day.
Excellent. That sounded completely natural. Give me another one.
My mother would cook a big dinner every Sunday.
Perfect. You're really getting this. Here's another pattern you'll hear all the time. Native speakers often use would always to emphasize a repeated behavior, like my teacher would always arrive exactly on time, or my grandmother would always bring us candy when she visited.
Oh, I like that. It makes the habit sound even more regular. So I could say, my best friend would always call me after school.
Exactly right. Now, here's something important to remember. When you're using would for past habits, it's especially common when you're telling stories or reminiscing. It creates this nostalgic feeling, like you're taking someone back in time with you.
That's interesting. So if I'm sharing memories, would is perfect.
Yes! Imagine you're talking to a friend about your hometown. You might say, when I lived there, I would walk along the river every evening. I would watch the sunset and listen to the birds. Sometimes my dog would come with me. See how this creates a vivid picture of your past routine?
I do see that. It sounds like you're painting a picture of your memories. Let me try with my own memory. When I lived in my old apartment, I would have coffee on my balcony every morning. I would watch people walking to work, and I would plan my day.
Alex, that was beautiful. You used would 3 times perfectly, and it really created this clear image. That's exactly how native speakers tell stories about the past.
Thank you. This is really helpful. I can see myself using this when I talk about my childhood or my time studying abroad.
Absolutely. And listeners, think about your own past right now. What's something you would do every day as a child? Maybe you would play with your siblings, or you would help your parents with chores, or you would watch a certain TV show every evening. Practice saying these things out loud using would. It'll help you remember.
Mary, quick question. Can I use would for recent past habits or only for childhood memories?
Great question. You can use it for any past time period, even recent ones. For example, last year when I worked from home, I would start my day with a long walk. Or during the pandemic, we would have video calls with our family every weekend.
Oh, good. So it's not just for distant memories. That makes it even more useful.
Exactly. Okay, ready for the third use of would? This is a big one that English learners often struggle with. Alex, let me ask you a fun question. What would you do if you won the lottery tomorrow?
If I win the lottery, I buy a house and travel the world.
Okay, you've got the right idea, but let's look at the grammar carefully. Listen to how I ask the question. What would you do if you won the lottery? And your answer should be, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house and travel the world.
Oh, I need to use would in my answer, and I need to say won, not win. Why is that?
Because we're talking about an imaginary, hypothetical situation. You haven't actually won the lottery, right? We're just imagining what might happen. In English, when we talk about imaginary or unreal situations, we use would in the main part of the sentence.
So would is for situations that aren't real, just imaginary.
Exactly. This is really important because English learners often confuse will and would here. Will is for real plans and real possibilities. Would is for imaginary situations or things that probably won't happen.
Can you give me examples of both so I can hear the difference?
Sure. Real situation with will. If it rains tomorrow, I will bring an umbrella. That's a real possibility. Imaginary situation with would. If I were a bird, I would fly around the world. That's impossible. I'm not a bird.
Ah, so if it's something that could really happen, use will. If it's something imaginary or unlikely, use would.
Exactly. Let's practice with more examples. If I had more time, I would learn to play piano. I don't have more time. It's imaginary. If I were taller, I would play basketball professionally. I'm not taller. It's imaginary.
Okay, let me try. If I spoke perfect English, I would feel more confident.
Perfect. That's exactly right. You're imagining a situation where you speak perfect English. Give me another one.
If I lived near the beach, I would go swimming every day.
Excellent. You're really getting this. Now, here's a really common pattern you'll hear all the time in English. If I were you, I would. This is how we give advice in a gentle, polite way.
Oh, I've heard that before. If I were you, I would. So I can use this to give suggestions.
Yes. For example, if your friend is tired, you could say, if I were you, I would take a break and rest. Or if someone is worried about a test, if I were you, I would review your notes one more time.
That's really useful. Let me practice. If someone told me they were stressed about work, I could say, if I were you, I would talk to your manager about it.
Perfect. That sounds completely natural. Here are some more common phrases with would for hypothetical situations. I would never do that. I would love to visit Japan. That would be amazing. All of these express imaginary situations or desires.
So when I'm dreaming about something or imagining something, I should think about using would.
Exactly. Let's practice a few more. I'll give you a situation and you tell me what you would do. If you could have dinner with anyone in history, who would you choose?
Oh, I would choose to have dinner with Albert Einstein. I would ask him about his theories.
Great. If you could learn any skill instantly, what would you learn?
I would learn to speak 5 languages fluently. No, wait, I would learn to play the guitar.
Both answers are perfect. See how natural would becomes when you're imagining things? Here's another one. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
If I could live anywhere, I would live in a small house in the mountains surrounded by nature.
Beautiful answer and perfect use of would. Now, listeners, it's your turn. Answer this question out loud. If you could have any job in the world, what would you do? Start your answer with, I would. Go ahead, practice out loud.
Mary, I notice you said if I were you, not if I was you. Is that important?
Great catch. Technically, if I were is the correct form for hypothetical situations, but honestly, many native speakers say if I was in casual conversation. Both are understood, but if I were is more grammatically correct and sounds a bit more formal.
Okay, good to know. So I should probably use if I were to be safe.
That's a good strategy. Now, let's look at one more common use of would before we wrap up. The fourth main use of would is for expressing preferences and desires. This is another way to sound more polite and thoughtful in English. Instead of saying, I want to stay home, you can say, I would prefer to stay home, or I would rather stay home.
Oh, so it's similar to the polite requests we talked about earlier.
Yes, it has that same polite, softer quality. Let me give you some examples. I would prefer tea over coffee. I would rather walk than take the bus. I would love to visit you next weekend.
Those all sound much more polite than saying I want tea or I want to visit you.
Exactly. Here's a really useful phrase. I would rather. This is for expressing a preference between two options. I would rather stay in tonight than go out. I would rather watch a movie than go to a party.
Let me try. I would rather study in the morning than at night.
Perfect. Now try with I would prefer.
I would prefer to have meetings in the afternoon. Is that right?
Absolutely. That sounds natural and professional. This is especially useful in work situations. I would prefer to receive feedback by email, or I would prefer to work from home on Fridays.
These are all really useful for expressing what I want without sounding demanding.
Exactly. And here's another common one. I'd love to. This is a really friendly way to accept invitations or express interest. If someone says, do you want to grab coffee? You can say, I'd love to, instead of just yes.
Oh, I like that. It sounds enthusiastic, but still polite. I'd love to. That's like the contraction of I would love to, right?
Yes. Native speakers use contractions with would all the time. I'd instead of I would. You'd instead of you would. We'd instead of we would. It makes your English sound more natural and fluent.
So I could say I'd prefer or I'd rather instead of saying the full I would prefer.
Absolutely. In fact, in casual conversation, you'll almost always hear the contraction. Let me give you a few more examples. I'd rather not means I would prefer not to do that. I'd better go means I should probably go now. I'd be happy to help is a polite way to offer assistance.
These are all really practical. Let me practice a few. I'd love to join you for lunch. I'd prefer to meet in the morning. I'd rather not work late tonight.
Excellent, Alex. Those all sounded completely natural. You're really mastering would now. Okay, Alex, we've covered a lot today. Let's do a quick review of the four main uses of would. Can you remember them?
Let me think. First, we use would for polite requests, like, would you help me? Or, I would like some coffee, please.
Perfect. What's the second use?
For past habits, when we're talking about things we did regularly in the past, like, when I was young, I would visit my grandparents every summer.
Excellent. Number 3?
Hypothetical or imaginary situations, like, if I won the lottery, I would travel the world. Or, if I were you, I would take a vacation.
Great. And the last one?
For preferences and desires, like, I would prefer tea, or I would rather stay home, or I'd love to come to your party.
Perfect summary, Alex. You've really got this. Now, the key to mastering would is practice. You need to start using it in your daily English.
How can listeners practice this?
Great question. Here's what I recommend. First, start noticing when native speakers use would in movies, podcasts, conversations. Second, Practice the polite request phrases every day. Instead of saying, I want, try saying, I would like. Third, when you're telling stories about your past, use would to describe your habits.
Those are really practical tips.
And here's a fun practice activity. Think about your perfect day. Describe it using would for hypothetical situations. If I had a perfect day, I would wake up at sunrise. I would have breakfast on a beach. I would spend the afternoon reading. I would have dinner with my best friends.
I love that. It's like daydreaming in English.
Exactly. It's a fun way to practice. And listeners, that's your homework for this week. Describe your perfect day using would at least 5 times. Write it down, say it out loud, or share it in the comments. Alex, how are you feeling about would now? More confident?
So much more confident. I never realized how useful this one word could be. I'm definitely going to start using it more in my everyday English.
That's wonderful. And to everyone listening, remember that learning English is a journey. Don't expect to be perfect right away. Just start using would in 1 or 2 situations this week, and gradually it'll become more and more natural.
And if you make mistakes, that's okay. Making mistakes is how we learn.
Absolutely, Alex. Now, before we finish, we have a question for all of you listening. Here it is. If you could speak English perfectly right now, what would you do? Would you travel? Would you change jobs? Would you make new friends? Think about it and leave us a comment. We read every single one, and we love hearing from you.
And if this conversation helped you understand would better, please subscribe to our channel. We post new English practice podcasts just like this one several times a week.
That's right. We cover grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, conversation skills, everything you need to speak English more confidently. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our lessons.
Thanks so much for learning with us today.
Yes, thank you for listening. Keep practicing, stay confident, and remember, you're doing better than you think. We'll see you in the next conversation.
See you next time.
Goodbye.